as said, my name is Robert. I was one of the initiators of Global Network Group. And ICR Coach is part of Global Network Group. I originate from the maritime industry. I did business administration. And in the maritime industry, you have a shitload to do with certification and accreditations. And I was always searching to the balance of quality control, efficiency. Is it manageable and does it deliver? I mean, it's easy to say a yes or no and say this is a finding and it's not okay, but does it really contribute to quality? So that was my personal thing. Anyway, I was working in the Navy as a naval officer, and I was also working with a huge conformity assessment body, Det Norske Veritas. And at a certain moment in the beginning of the 90s, there was an opportunity to start small certification schemes for professionals. So this is how the company started. So it's a company now for over 30 years. And we are now, well, let's say in a middle way, a conformity assessment body. We are not like Lloyd's and DNV, but we're also not small anymore. My job is to assure the quality and to make sure that we maintain the accreditations we have ourselves and that we maintain our appointments. It's fair to say that most of the activities we do it under accreditation. So we work together with UCAS in London and the Dutch Accreditation Council in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And we get appointments out of the European Union. For instance, for gyms, for fertilizers, for recreational crafts. So we do a shitload of things. And in that circle of activities, we also do the coaching sector. So for several types of coaching and for the sector appropriate dispute resolution. I believe that the contacts you had are now also always with Teresa. Teresa is until the end of the month our office manager in Joburg, and she is sailing a new course up from July the 1st. And we will appoint a new office manager. However, we need to find someone who is also capable of dealing with the more difficult certification scene. Because, for instance, here in South Africa, we do a shitload with the fertilizers. It's complex. You also need to have some content-based knowledge. So we are still in the middle of a process of appointing. It's not yet finalized. And in between, I will take care of the things Teresa was doing and will be assisted by Josh, who will do the administration. So in short, that's me, more personal. I'm getting old. I'm 60 now. Have a wife, 2 sons. The sons are part of the business because we started as a family business and we are in the process that they are taking it. They are taking over the company. So that's a challenge, and it's challenge. It's nice. It's special. But that's my personal story.
Super, perfect. So thank you for sharing that with us. And then if you could give me a brief intro to ICR specifically, so that we can have a broader understanding of what is ICR and what is the objective behind it.
Well, our objective is we want to deliver a guarantee, a certainty for the people who are selecting and assigning, in this instance, the coaches. The whole purpose of certification is that we make sure that there is a standard and that everybody who is certified applies with that standard. If we look to ICR, what we are going to do, we are going to make a few changes. For instance, now we say you have a general coach, you have an NLP coach, an inheritance coach, and those are all subscopes. As said, there is no general or worldwide standard. So what we are going to do to make it more possible to find out if someone is complying, we simply are going to say, we have one main scope, that's coach. and we're going to define sub-scopes, so the specialisms like inheritance, conflict coach, hypnosis coach, etc., and add criteria to it. But we're going to change situation that we have, I believe now, 7 main scopes and no sub-scopes. So we're going to 1 main scope, coach, with general criteria. So you must have at least a certain duration, and it must be a certain level, and you must have a certain general educational level. Yeah, that's it. And how we do it is, for instance, to facilitate that if there is a complaint or a concern with a customer, that they can file a complaint and that we handle it. And if there is a question about the competencies of a coach, that we can show and can prove to the relevant stakeholders that he or she did comply with it. And furthermore, and that seems difficult, but we believe it's necessary, we also want to integrate that coaches are not only competent, but that they are really working according to a certain process or procedure. What we see if we review the complaints and the concerns filed, that a lot of people say, okay, yes, we do believe that he or she is competent, but when we assigned and we attended the sessions, we had no clue at all what is happening, what is the process. For instance, are they making minutes? Do we get reviews? How is the invoicing organized? Are they part of a franchise organization? Whatever. So what we see is that a lot of people think they are entering a black hole, and that is withholding them for doing business, for instance, with coaches. So we believe that it is necessary to find a middle ground with the certificate holders. How do you organize your business? And what we are not going to do is change ourselves into a franchise organization. So we're not going to say, here is an ICR document, this is the way you must run your company or your practice. We are going to say to them, listen, we ask you, organize it. So, or develop a procedure yourself, or, and I think that's a challenge for you as an institute, supply for your students a certain structure which they can use. It's also part then of a profit model, because you can keep them in your institute, but then in another situation, a student, or simply say to the students, work together, organize a franchise, organize a small group, and develop things yourself. But based on how ISO is organized, and everything we do is based on the ISO principles, is that we say we want to go further than competencies. We need you to run your practice in accordance with a process or a procedure, and your clients must know. They must be able to read it, they must be able to complain about it, and that's it.
All right, super. And so you are not really setting a specific set of standards that all people who are becoming the members need to follow, but individual members need to have their own processes that they can submit to you and that they can follow, but it needs to have the criteria that you have just told me right now. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Yeah. What we do now is we call it an admission audit. So we audit, do they comply with the criteria we have? Then a certification period starts. The certification period is 5 calendar years, and then you do the recertification. We can do recertification, or it is a peer review. We prefer the peer review because then you can add more value to it, because you can reflect with a colleague about how things are going. And also relevant for the students, we distinguish between associate level and full level. If you have no experience, you can enter as a once-off the associate level, and then you have 5 years to prove that you have over 2 years experience and you did over 15 client assignments. And a client assignment, that's also relevant, that's not a session. A client assignment is everything. So all sessions, preparations, finalizing, invoicing, administration, everything. So you must show proof that you did 15, at least 15 client assignments, and you are doing it over 2 years. Is it less than 2 years? We ask for 25 client assignments.
Okay. And is there like a sample documentation or something for the assignments that they can submit to you?
What we do if they are associates, we ask for proof that it is really traceable that I did it. So they ask, for instance, is there a statement from an accountant or a statement from a lawyer or whatever who is saying it is the truth that you did it, or simply send copies of invoices. We don't ask them to send in the personal files. So that's when they apply for the associate level. If they apply for the full level, so if it's the first time appliance, we have the same procedure. So we ask, deliver the proof, but we do not audit the files. The first moment we audit files is with the recertification. Then you must deliver proof of files, and the files will be audited against the procedure you say as coach that you apply.
Okay. And would you just be able to give me a list of what these files are that needs to be included?
Yes, if we have two relevant documents for the coaches, we have the code of conduct and we have the process and procedure requirements. In the process and procedure requirements, in that document, it's a procedure document, so it's document ICR PD 003. It's defined what is a client, what is a assignment, and what do you need to do to make it a client file valid for certification. We are updating the document at the moment because we also see that it is relevant to add a few statements about online coaching and things like that, so people can deal with the modern techniques, and it's not necessary to do it in your office or home, whatever the place is. So that updated document will be available around September.
Okay, perfect. And so the interesting thing, Robert, is that already with what we are covering in our courses, there is a lot of structure that's created and given to the students, where they understand a step-by-step process that they need to follow, beginning from the initial session all the way up to the culmination of the session that they have with their clients, including the documentation process and so on. So that bit I think is already covered in the model that we are following. You have also shared about details with respect to the finances and the legal department and the papers from them. So probably that's something that we need to look at and see how we can psychoeducate our students in terms of being able to follow the same model if they're not following that. So I'll surely look into that one. Also, in terms of, like, ICR is one association. Are there other associations like these, and what are the difference between these associations?
So I don't really understand your question. Can you summarize for me?
Sure. So you mentioned about ICR right now, right? Are
Yeah.
there other similar associations, and what are those associations?
I think if you look at the global scale, the International Coach Federation is doing basically the same as we. And the big difference is that the International Coach Federation is not willing to distinguish against specialisms. So they say you are coach and that's it. And we believe that one of our unique selling points is that it is able to specialize and to make that specialisms visible for people who are searching for a coach. Because we see that you have a shitload of types in coaching. And for instance, there is a huge difference between a coach for inheritance issues and a coach who is working NLP based. There is a huge difference. And we believe it is not very effective to put both in a list and say, find out yourself what kind of coach it is. So the main difference between the International Coach Federation and ICR is that we distinguish against specialisms, and we want to improve that, and they don't. And I believe we are a little bit cheaper. However, that is not really fair to say, because they, as organization, has certain documents which they provide to the coaches and say you need, or better, you must work against those documents. And we say you have to develop your own documents. So yes, it's cheaper, but they might offer more. So if you are a coach, you say, I immediately want documents and I don't want to develop anything myself, it might be the case that you're better in the hand of the Coach Federation.
Okay, all right. And if you could now just list the key benefits of becoming a member of ICR. I know you covered this earlier, but just in pointers so that we have a summary of this. The key benefits for becoming the member of ICR.
Well, I think, listen, first we need to say, do you want certification, yes or no? Do you want to certify yourself and to show to the world and to your possible assigning organizations and persons that you comply with certain criteria for quality? That's the main question. And that's a relevant choice, because if you decide for certification, it is another decision that you say, I'm going to join a professional association. A certification body like we is not an association. We only are a conformity assessment body. So that is a difference. So that's the first thing. Do you want it, yes or no? And are you prepared to invest some time and some money in being certified? So that's one. The benefits of certification are clear. You can show to the world, listen, this is a public register. I comply with criteria. You can see at the website what are the criteria, so you can see to what criteria I'm audited and to what criteria I comply. And if there is an issue, the guarantee is that there is impartial, independent. There is an impartial, independent procedure with independent and impartial persons who are going to review your complaint or concern. And in a way, to be honest, those are the benefits, and that's it. And it is enormous relevant and fair to say to people, if you have the expectation that if you certify that immediately you will have work, it's a wrong expectation. That's not the way it works. You have to do your marketing and public relations yourself. One of the tools is that you say, I distinguish against other coaches because I'm certified. And this is one of my USPs. But we are not a franchise. We don't deliver work. And it's also relevant that we don't gather assignments. So if someone is calling or mailing to ICR and say, listen, I need a coach, please assign a coach, we will not do that. Because if we are going into that direction, then we are going to say, okay, let's say we have 1,000 coaches. A is better than B. And that's not what we are supposed to do. We only say, these are the criteria, and we guarantee that everybody who is certified is on or above the criteria.
Okay.
The challenge is, and that is something that is difficult to organize, but it's fair to say that we are searching for ways to do it. As said, it is a middle ground. So you have criteria. But the question is always, also within the world of, within the professional group of coaches, okay, I comply, but I'm far above that level. And how can you make visible in your ICR register that I'm far above? So are you willing, ICR, to introduce, for instance, bronze, silver, gold level? Or are you willing to publish that I have 100 CPD points a year and the other ones only 12 because that's the minimum? And we are investigating, is it possible to deal with this? And if so, how?
All right, perfect. You've already shared with me the different categories that the memberships can be in terms of the main category of coaches, and then there are sub-specializations, right?
Yeah, so what the most relevant thing for them to understand is you can distinguish between associate and full. Associate, no experience required, because during the associate, you're going to gather experience. Full, you need to show proof of your experience. And then we have what we call the subscopes, and the subscopes will be the specialism. So inheritance, conflict, hypnosis, NLP, and we're also going to introduce things like EMDR and all kinds of other specialisms.
Okay, perfect. And can someone, when they're registering, opt for multiple specialization, or do they need to opt only for a single specialization?
No, it's organized the way that we ask money for the admission, all that, and we ask money for the yearly registration, what we call the annual registration fee. It is regardless how many scopes. So if you apply for only, let's say, in a new situation, if you say I'm a coach and that's it, then you pay the annual registration fee. If you say I'm a coach and I have 6 subscopes, you pay the same registration fee. That's it.
Okay, and you can apply for multiple.
And for you, I think that's relevant to say, we have a general fee structure. And if we do not agree to something else, that fee structure is applicable. However, you explained to me, you have certain procedures in place and your students can benefit from that. If you as institute say, listen, a few things we have in place, it can be part of the certification, then we can adjust, of course, the fee structure, because if you are delivering things we normally do, we can adjust the fee structure. That's not a discussion for with the students, but that's a discussion you and I, or let's say ICR in the institute, needs to finalize. How do we want to organize the cooperation? And then we can also decide on an applicable fee structure.
All right, super, perfect. And also the reason for the multiple specialization that I asked is, in the curriculum that we offer, we currently already integrate hypnosis, NLP practitioner, and major components of mindfulness. So it's already the way it's designed, it integrates all of these things together when participants are learning these programs. So a lot of them have asked me this, that we see there's a hypnosis coach also, there's an NLP coach also. So can we apply for the two together, or do we need to select only one super specialization?
No, you can select them both.
You can select them both. All right, super.
Yeah.
So we've already discussed about the subtypes and so on. Again, if you could just list for me like a step-by-step process for becoming a member. So what will be the first step? How do they connect with you? And then so on, subsequently the other steps.
Okay, if you make the decision to certify, you file the application form. If you have filed, we confirm that it is received. After it is received, you get a separate email which includes an overview of all documents to be provided. Then you simply provide the documents. You send them in per email as PDF, in preferable the PDF structure. We audit the file. As soon as the file is complete, you receive what we call a conformity assessment decision. In the decision is listed that the file is audited, that there are no findings anymore open, and which scopes are applicable. Next to the decision, you receive a certificate which you must sign. There is no time frame. So if you apply, well, there is a time frame, and the time frame is a calendar year. You are supposed to deliver your admission file within a calendar year. After a year, we delete the file. It's fair to say that most of the people need a maximum of 3 months to complete a file, and then it's done. For instance, why is it taking so long? We ask for a police clearance. It's obvious it needs time. Even in the Netherlands, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to deliver a police clearance, so that needs time. So that's time consuming. Regularly, we see 2 to 4 months maximum people need to deliver the complete file, and then they are certified. If you are certified, your first certification period starts. That's 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, you simply decide, do I go for recertification or do I delist?
Okay, all right. And so there are a couple of additional questions that some of the students had asked me. So I'm just asking those questions to you also, so that we have those details. So one of our students is specifically now moving to UK. And she has asked that, are there any advantages of being an ICR member, specifically with respect to UK?
The issue with that question and that specific situation is that we have no global accepted criteria or standards. So if you say I go to a country, and let's skip UK, let's say you go to another country. The issue is always, do they accept yes or no? What we see is that in all countries, different criteria apply. And there is no organization, and I'm really sure there's no organization who is accepted or officially recognized or accredited in all countries. In fact, in most of the countries, for instance, the UK, it is not possible as organization to get accredited for the certification of coaches. So that is a little bit of an issue. That's the bad side. The good side is we have organized our register against the ISO criteria. So we certify professionals. For the certification of professional, the ISO norm 17024 is applicable. So we follow that structure. The only lack in this is there are no harmonious standards. The result of this is, and that's the good news, if you show your ICR certificate of competence, people can check and find out that it is organized against ISO. And what you will see then, that in most of the countries, they say, okay, we don't know ICR, we don't know you, we do know ISO, so we give you the benefit of the doubt. You are welcome and you can practice. What we do, because this is an issue, if a certificate holder is experiencing issues with that, we ask them to forward the contact details of the authority. We contact that authority and inform them who we are, that we work against ISO, and that we expect them to accept.
Okay. And just in case of any legal troubles, do you provide any kind of support?
Yes, if people are experiencing issues with this, we definitely support. And the support is, as primary action, we ask for contact details. We mail those authorities or stakeholders and inform them. And if necessary, we set up a Teams or Zoom call to inform them. What we see, let's say in 60% of the cases, an email will work and it will close the case. And in the other cases, we go for the phone, we go for the video chat and try to solve it. We do support. However, it is honest and relevant to say we do not guarantee. So we do our utmost, but we can simply not guarantee.
Okay. Then another question was, does ICR offer any research or academic advantages? Can I lead a research project being certified by ICR?
Yes, and I believe if we want to do that, then it is relevant to agree on a subscope, because this is what, let's say in my words, it sounds like a specialism. It's not like a general coach certification. So it is something new, and then we need to agree on what are the criteria, and that's also relevant. Is it, for instance, limited to an institute like yours, or is it open for everybody? What we see in the coach world, that a lot of institutes develop processes, procedures, types, techniques themselves, and they don't want them to be open for people who did not follow the course with that specific institute. So that's what we call, is it a closed subtype or an open subtype? We need to agree on that.
Okay, all right. But ICR by itself is not involved in any kind of research or academic work, right?
No, because it's, to be honest, and that's a rude answer, but it's not our core business. We are a conformity assessment body. So the only thing what we do is audit and deliver findings and say, and that's the root part, say a yes or no. Do you comply, yes or no? And we have to deal with things like GDPR. And we cannot simply share all kinds of details. So, no.
Okay, all right. And then the last question that we had was, what would make you consider providing automatic approvals to register for ICHR's graduates?
Sorry, I don't really understand the question. Can you say it in
So
another
the
way?
question is, for those people who have enrolled, who have completed the courses with us,
Yes.
what would ICHRs need to do to ensure that the registration of its students with ICR can become more automatic?
Well, in a way that is easy. As said, we are a conformant assessment body, and normally, if you apply, we do all the checks. And we do understand sometimes that's difficult because we are the perfect strangers for you guys. If we agree with ICR and the institute that you are also accredited to handle the admission audits, then you simply as institute handle the admission audits, which is easy because you have the students in your classroom, you know them, you have the time to gather all the documents, and then at the end you simply give us the signal. It's a go, or it's a no-go. And for us that's easy because then we as conformity assessment body and the institute agree on a review structure, but the students are out of that line. They don't see it. It's an issue between you and us. So if you say, I want to smooth the process, the best we can do is organize a situation that you as institute take care of the admission audit and simply say yes or no to us.
Okay, perfect.
And that's not new. It's possible. We do it with more institutes. We have also institutes who have their own register, and basically we are the supervisors of their register. So it is not new, but we have to agree on that.
Okay, perfect. So as an institute now, what should we do to be able to follow through on this process?
Well, what I think is relevant that you express your expectation, and the last one, for instance, is relevant. If you say, I want to smooth the process for my students, so how do we organize that? If I say it's a yes, that is acceptable for you, then we need to organize that. So the first step is make extremely clear to us what are the expectations, what are your needs, what do you want to achieve, and then we can respond on how to organize that. Or if it's not possible, to say, we do understand, however, this is not possible with us.
Okay, so we can send you a mail with respect to the same and take this forward, right?
Yeah, then we take it forward, and that's not a very time-consuming process. We simply need to find out who is doing what.
Okay, all right. So I would ask someone from the team to follow up with you on this via email so that we can actually also understand how we proceed from here. Just let me check if there's any other question that's left. One last thing that I've been asked, I think you answered this earlier with respect to ICA, but still, because especially in India, we see a lot of organizations highlighting their association with ICA.
Yeah.
Is there any specific advantage that we have when we go with ICR in comparison to ICA? So one is,
I think the most relevant difference is that the Coach Federation is not distinguishing against specialism. They simply hold the title coach, and that's it. When we started ICR, we especially studied the market and found out that the most of the people who wants to assign a coach immediately wants to see what kind of coach is it and what kind of specialisms does the coach offer. So our main target is to add all those specialisms and make them visible. And I do understand the Coach Federation, but they don't want to do it. They say it's a coach, and we're not going to distinguish. And it's the main difference.
all right, perfect. Thank you. Anything else, Robert, that you think you would like to add for our students that I may have missed in terms of question?
Let's say the last thing I want to say, it is a really relevant choice to decide, do you want to certify, yes or no? And please understand, and this is so relevant, if you decide to certify, you do it on a voluntary basis. In your country, globally, in the Netherlands, in South Africa, everywhere where you're working, there is no obligation to certify as a coach. So it must be your own decision. And you must follow your heart and decide really inside your heart, do I want it, yes or no? And the benefit of saying yes or no is, do you want to show to the world that you comply to certain public criteria, that if there is an issue, that there is independent and impartial disciplinary action possible. So there is a guarantee for clients that they are really working with a professional. And it's in this process, if you review, do I want to certify, yes or no? It is also enormous relevant that you reflect on your own expectations. We see that a lot of coaches have the expectation that if they certify, they will have immediately work because the certification is going to deliver work. What we say, please understand, it's a tool to communicate. And the tool is showing to the world, I'm qualified, I'm a professional, I am audited, I comply with criteria. But it's not the marketing machine that delivers the work. You have to work yourself to get clients, to get coaches, and it's really relevant for you to reflect on that. Having said that, what we see, and we see it in a lot of countries, more and more clients want to see that you are part of a professional body, so a professional association, or getting certified, or somewhere being registered. They want to see that it is traceable, that you are a professional. Certification guarantees that it's traceable. That's relevant.
Okay, all right, perfect. So thank you, Robert, for being with us, for sharing all your expertise and for answering the question that we had.